didn't know what to like. I like the significance of a tattoo, but I don't know what I would put yet. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same thing. Like, I like things, but other than my daughter, I don't know what else I would put on.
yeah,
For a while, I wanted to get a Bruins tattoo, but then I started getting close to them, and then I was like, well, I'm not on the teams.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because everybody thinks that's what I have, and it's like I'm not. I'm gonna wait till they win a cup and I'm singing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool because my guy gives me great, like he takes really good care of me, but he made me promise that he's the one that he goes, I want to be the one that puts a Bruins tattoo on the singer. And I'm like, you're in. He's like, dude, you're all set.
You got to make that one a neck tattoo.
nice.
Well, that's when and then I want the
suit.
Bruins to let me drive. I want them to let me ride my street glide out onto the carpet. That's what I want. So I want Undertaker style come out for the anthem. You know,
Is that a thing? Can you do that? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right, boys.
And then me and Josh can be in your sidecar
with no shirts on.
Yeah.
No tattoos.
We'll blend in with the ice.
Some pasty guys.
Jason's like, what is this all about?
Damn. What are we talking about today?
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, is it? How do you prefer? Do you prefer Jay, Jason?
Jason's fine.
Okay, you got it.
Right, boys, we're all good. Audio looks good. Video looks good. We are rolling. We can start whenever you're ready.
All right.
You guys good to go?
Yeah. Why don't this is Bowdridge's. That's a mouthful right there. Bowdridge's. All right. JB, why don't you take it away? You're bringing this wonderful guest to us, and why don't you set the table and get us back in the game?
Sure. All right, perfect. Welcome, Jason. First met Jason on a mountain during a trail run. You know, I've been lucky enough to hear his story and be a part of his life, and he's a part of mine, and I'm hugely grateful for that. So, brought Jason on here today because he has a story that I think exemplifies back in the game. He is on the path to be able to help people. He's doing so every day, and I think, I don't want to tell his story. I think that's up to Jason. Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you're doing now, and kind of how you got there, and we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Appreciate all the kind words. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey, right? Talk about being back in the game, like. I've been checked out. I was checked out of the game for a long time. You know, I gave up on life, gave up on myself, gave up on any hope. So, right now, I am blessed to say that I am the assistant program director of Alyssa's Place Peer Recovery Center here in Gardner, Massachusetts. This is beyond what I ever thought that I would be doing, was using my my shortcomings to help other people, like all the messed up things that I've done in my life, the poor decisions, and use them to inspire hope. And that's why I kind of like and enjoy and it excites me to do what I'm doing, because I was that person that never thought there was going to be any hope for me. I remember, the last memory before I even got help was, laying on the concrete floor of a place called the Pip Shelter in Worcester. It's on Queen Street, and yeah, not knowing where my life was going, thinking that like this is it, right? And seeing this person right next to me overdosing, and instead of people helping him, they were robbing him. And
wow,
part of me was like, Jay, that's gonna be you. Is this really what you want your life to be, or your last experiences to be? Or people to remember you by? I don't know if it was like that gift of desperation right there in that moment, but I was like finally like, whoa, I need to do something, because this is not how my family raised me, how my parents raised me. This is not how I pictured my life. Yeah, and that was the first time, I wouldn't say the first time I ever sought help, but the first time I was willing to do whatever it took to get help. Like this time I wasn't gonna half measure anything. I wasn't going to use excuses or, oh, I can't do this because, I got this going on or I got these people waiting for me. Like, I had nothing waiting for me. Disowned by my family, I had nothing. And I wanted to change that. And I didn't know if that was ever going to be possible, but I had to be willing to try. Yeah, I don't know how far you want me to continue going. I can continue going forever. I don't want to.
So let's maybe because we're new to this process. Dolan has been very versed in podcast and being on the radio and all that, so he's probably more fluid. Josh and myself, we had this idea to come up with this podcast basically like right for this, you know what I mean? And Dolan kind of fell right in where we were just originally reaching out for some guidance, and he was like, I don't want to speak for you, Dolan, but like he was like, no, I want in, but so maybe just kind of prompt you along. First of all, I'm glad you're here with us today, and I'm glad and coming from a totally different background, but being very familiar. Not going to patronize you, but I just really appreciate you sharing that. And so there you are. I mean, first of all, we're hearing, I hate to get into the terms like buzzwords and this and that and so on and so forth, but like your story, your background seems to be, I won't say similar, but you had to go through a process to get, but you had the self-realization. What, and I feel so stupid asking the question, but I mean, you don't know until you know. But there you are. I mean, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. You're on the floor, and someone is laying next to you overdosing, and they're rather than.
Oh, he's back. Todd, you gotta ask that question again, Todd.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Can he hear us? Can you hear us, Todd?
I don't think he can because he's talking and we're talking.
Yeah.
Boy.
I wonder if he can see us.
What?
Oh, he's back.
There he is. You're back. You
were gone
disappeared
for a
minute. We couldn't hear you.
Yeah, my phone's blowing up, so sorry. No, I really, and then sometimes I can get to, because I love how this team here, Jason, where, you have that tendency. I think people have that natural tendency to kind of, they don't know what to say, so they talk about themselves, and that's what I love about this group here, Josh and myself. Which if you can help us, we're trying to figure out like a name for that. We got two guys with the same Josh and T, JJT. You know, that's what this is all about, that platform for people to come on and share, because the more people are sharing this, and it takes all kinds, you know what I mean? But how old were you when this was happening? How old are you now, if you don't mind? How old were you when this happened?
So I am currently 44 years old. When I first saw it, well, my final time seeking treatment was right before my 38th birthday in 2020.
Okay.
So I just came up in January, 6 years, clean and sober.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Congratulations. Way to go. Go. Awesome.
And I was that person who just stringing hours together was a struggle. To say I have 6 years today, like, who am I not to show someone that can't even string hours together, that they can string some days together and that can accumulate.
You mean stringing hours together like without using?
Yeah. Like that, so for me, it was always like towards the end, it was survival for me. I was doing it just to feel okay. It wasn't even about getting high anymore. It was the thought that like, I thought I needed this to survive. I thought I needed this to get through my day. I thought I needed this to wake up. Because I knew what it felt like when I didn't have it. I was sick. I felt like I was dying. And I didn't know any other options. I'm like, well, I know what will temporarily make me feel better. And I'd always run back to that fix. And knowing that, like, okay, I'll deal with the consequences later.
Yeah. What was the journey like? When did this start for you? Also, I mean, I like to hear this, but I mean, I think it serves to the familiarity, the way we're trying to make this identifiable for people. When did your substance abuse, was it, and what was, I mean, if you don't mind, Toy, if that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, it's just, when did your experiences start? How did it start? How old are you?
So I was probably just a teenager, right? Full of fear. insecurity, always caring what people thought about me. You know, I was very good at projecting how people thought about me based on what I felt about myself. And I, for some reason, had like this low self-esteem, even though like I was this person that, you know, was the captain of the basketball team that played these sports. But inside, I always felt like I was falling short.
Wow.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have no clue why, but I did. Like, I was that type of person in school. Like, I wasn't high-fiving people. I was quiet. I was very quiet. For some reason, there was a part of me who didn't want to be me. And I don't necessarily know why. I just was like, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. There was a lot of things about me I didn't like. I was always comparing myself to other people. And for some reason, that kind of internal dialogue created a lot of noise. A lot of noise. And what I found out was the only way to quiet that narrative in my head was when I first picked up a drink, you know?
Okay.
I didn't like the drink, trust me. Like, I forgot what it was. I think it was like, you remember those old flask cars that had like the whiskey, they're like collectible cars and they have like old whiskey or something in them. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. It's like a collectible. One of my friends' grandfathers had it. And we cracked it. It was probably worth like thousands of dollars. And we're like, yeah, we didn't even really care. So we cracked it open. We started drinking it. I was like, this is disgusting. How could anyone even want to drink this? But then as I took another drink, everything started to slow down. My brain started to quiet. And that noise that was always telling me that I was less than, that like I wasn't good enough, started to dissipate. And I was starting to feel good about myself in a way, or not think about myself at all, I guess you could say, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what, so I was chasing that. So from day one, like it started with alcohol. I was chasing that feeling like, okay, this is the person who I'm supposed to be, right? You put a drink in me and now I'm confident. You know, I think I'm beautiful, like, you know, like all these clouded, I have these beer goggles on, like everything's just great, everyone's great, I can talk to anyone, and this is the Jay I was always supposed to be. So I was always looking for that behind, you know, I first started off with that drink, and sooner or later, you know, when I keep trying to search for something outside of myself, I need more and more of it to cope with like who I am, because every time I would come down, I felt like garbage. I'm like, ooh, I don't like being me. So I'd drink again. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I was chasing that. And obviously I became the person who I didn't want to be. At first, like, it was fun and I was meeting girls. Everything was great. Like, I felt like I was cool, like whatever. But then again, like, I felt like I needed to keep drinking more and more, and I became that like blackout drunk that everyone hated. People stopped inviting me to parties. You know, I was that sociable person, and I became that violent drunk. I picked fights with people that I thought were, or maybe were better than me. Like in my mind, delusional mind. Like I compared myself to other people, and if you were doing better than me, I hated you. You know, I was that person. I was very resentful, very resentful. Yeah, and that just progressed through the years, right? Alcohol stopped working. Like, you know, that social aspect that it gave me, it stopped working. And so I was like, well, what am I to do? Because I know who I am when I'm not under the influence. I know who I am when I'm just me. So I searched for something that would continue to make me into the person I thought I always was. So, you know, I got introduced to cocaine, right? So now I can drink and not black out and do cocaine. I thought that was going to be like, I was like, ooh, this is it. This is the perfect combination, right? You know, I can drink, have fun, go out, be social, and then when it gets to be a little bit too much, add in the cocaine. And then that in turn actually made me even more talkative. So I was like, shoot, like now I can even have even better conversations with people because I can't stop talking, and it doesn't even matter who you are. I'm telling you my life story. Like, you know, I remember going to bars, like random people, like, you know, well, we're going to start a business. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I don't even know you, but I'm just I'm so out of my mind that it didn't matter if I knew you. Like, for some reason, it was just, you know, it's what it did for me at that moment.
Yeah.
And not knowing I was an addict, just like anything else, I kept doing more. and that more created paranoia. That more created, it took me away from that social aspect. Now all of a sudden, like, I didn't want to be around people because this cocaine's giving me anxiety. I'm like, shoot, like, I couldn't find that perfect mixture of,
Yeah.
I guess I could say, like, the perfect J in a bag, in a bottle, in a needle. So, like, yeah, to not, like, go in too long a depths of, my whole catalog of drugs I've done. Yeah, I thought that I could continue doing this if I could just find the perfect balance, right? When I drink too much, obviously I get blackout, and I'm stupid and I don't make good decisions and people hate me. I introduce cocaine, I do that, like, things are good for a little bit, but then again, I'm an addict, so I do too much of that. So next thing you know, I don't even want to be around people because I'm having a panic attack because I'm on so much cocaine. And then I didn't realize that I don't know how to live. I really don't. I don't know how to live. I would always realize that I needed help, but I didn't know what that looked like. Because all I know is, like, how I felt when I wasn't on these substances.
Yeah.
You know?
So like, it's funny because that's exactly where I was going. So the next two things I was gonna. So were you on an island as far as, like, using and all that, or was there a group of people? Like, were there people that? Yeah, because I'm hearing a lot of isolation and stuff like that. But, like, did you find yourself relating to people? Was there a group of you? And then when you talk about the whole help thing, did that even, like, well, you just said it, but, like, did that even come into your head, or did that even exist then? You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's been a big shift in social, norms and things like that. But there was a time and a place where, especially being men, we don't ask for help. We don't say that we got a problem. So you got all these, in my opinion, and what I'm seeing, you got all these things kind of working against you. You're just trying to find the right balance, navigating all these things. But with using and all that, were there people you were hanging around with and doing this, or was it?
Yeah. So, yeah, I had to keep the crowd that made me not feel so alone in what I was doing. And what that looked like, it was more people that were doing drugs, because I already felt alone and horrible for what I was doing already, because I knew, like, there was a part of my life that was just so, it was becoming unmanageable. But I thought that not doing these drugs also internally felt unmanageable. Like, I couldn't picture my life without them,
Yeah.
So I kept myself around people who were doing them. I didn't feel so alone. It gave me some sort of, like, I don't know, like, connection. As small as it was, it's weird because drugs started to give me my purpose, because my life started to diminish. The people I was hanging around with, we were doing things to continue getting what we needed, and I was learning from people, obviously not the right traits. I started committing crimes, going back to the whole cocaine use. That was cocaine, and then I get introduced to opiates, and that was a whole nother ball game. I thought, painkillers was the end all be all to what I needed. I'm like, I don't even need alcohol. I don't even need cocaine. I got opiates. Like, I take these pills and I can do anything. I don't feel tired. I feel like I have all this energy. Everything's just so great. Not realizing that the people that I was getting the opiates from were not the best people, but I thought that I needed to keep myself around them because they had what I wanted.
Yeah.
Not knowing that, I was always that person who set this line in the sand, right? I'd always tell myself, okay, like, I've done these things, but I'll never do that. I was always that person who did cocaine, but I said I'd never smoke crack. I was always that person who took painkillers, but I said I'd never stick a needle in my arm, and until I did. And not because I wanted to, but because that was just what it came down to. It became down to my tolerance was so high that pills weren't even going to cut it no more.
Mm-hmm.
Did it almost feel like that you weren't even in control? Because, like, when I got to a point with drinking, like, I always bring this up, and I remember the liquor store. I remember turning in, and in my head, I'm screaming, like, don't pull in. But I'm still pulling in, and I'm walking up to the door, and I'm like, turn around, turn around, turn around. And then I walk in.
Yeah, it's, you know, I didn't think like that was gonna, how my life was gonna turn out, right? You know, I was just doing all these things because I felt good when I first started doing them, you know? Like I said earlier before, like it made me feel like I was the person I always wanted to be, but couldn't be when I wasn't on them. But the thing is I kept doing more, like I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to stop. You know, my brain kept telling me that I needed it. And like I was saying before, it went from like, okay, I was having fun, it was great, to like, now like I would get that fix and then think about the next fix. Like I wasn't even enjoying it. I would, you know, because what comes with like that lifestyle, remember how I was telling you how like the drugs gave me my purpose? Because it's what kept me busy. You know, like it was a whole structured thing that went with getting high. You know, here was a person like, you know, I was good at sports, like I did pretty decent in school, to now robbing and stealing in stores and doing whatever I have to do to get the money to feel okay. You know, and I had family members telling me, Jay, why can't you stop? Why can't you stop? You know, how could you do this? And I'm like, I want to stop. I don't know how. And they didn't understand that. And I understand why they didn't understand, because they, you know, never experienced it, you know. So, you know, I had to separate myself from the people I loved because they didn't want really anything more to do with me. So the only people that really wanted anything to do with me were other addicts.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it so hard for me to break out of that circle, because, you know, I didn't want to be alone. I already felt alone. And I thought like these are the only people that understand what I'm going through. It was that fear, that like, what if like I try to get, if I stop doing drugs or whatever and I have no one. Yeah, it was a scary place to be in, right? Like my mind, like you were talking about like isolation, like yeah, like it eventually isolated me because no one really wanted to be around me. You know, and towards the end, I didn't even really want to be around me. So when I just used out of, I guess it was just, like I was saying, like survival. Like I just used to just get through my day, and I didn't care who I was around or what I did. All I know is I had to get what I needed to get.
Sometimes the three of us get quiet because we're listening, and it's completely like I don't even know the right word. I don't want to say like interesting. Oh, this is interesting. It's just, I don't know. It just helps us paint like a real picture about what some, you know, people go through. One of the podcasts an episode or two ago, we talked about this hero's journey that people go on, right? So the idea or concept that you don't really introduce to the full potential, to your full potential, until you know, have this major setback, or you have to fight something and you come back. So you mentioned earlier about having that, I don't think you used the word awakening. I think I'm putting that on there, when you were on the floor of the concrete floor in the shelter in Worcester.
Gift of desperation.
Yeah. So from that point, what was it that kind of pulled you out of that rut, or that hole, or whatever you want to call it? I don't know what the appropriate word is, but what was it that put you on the right path to help build you to where you are today? Because especially, this isn't a common thing where I know the guest personally when we have a podcast. And what's always interesting to me is that I knew Jason well after this, right? So I know Jason as like this, you know, this great guy who helps people, and no matter who you are, he's always turning around to reach back and help the next person along. And he's one hell of a runner, I might add. I can say that, you know, I watched him run 45 miles last fall, and I don't even think he was tired.
That's a long drive.
I was just gonna say I can't drive that far without having to take a break. Jeez.
Yeah, I think my comeback story is a lot better than my active addiction story. As you can see, like I'm all over the place when it comes to my like active addiction story, because I don't really share too much about that anymore. It's more of like, yeah, like I was at a place of, you know, I usually do start, Josh, what you were saying, you know, when I was on the floor of that homeless shelter, because that's where drugs took me. You know, it took me to having nothing. It took me to having no family. It took me to a place where like I couldn't even manipulate my way to a couch. Like I couldn't beg or plead to even get on someone's couch because someone knew it wasn't worth it. Who knows what I would do? Like, you know, I was desperate. Not that I wanted to hurt people, but like if you had something and I knew I could get something for it, like I took it. Not because I wanted to be this thief or, you know, this was who, you know, imagined myself ever to be. It just was out of desperation. I was always constantly in survival mode and I wasn't thinking about anyone else but myself.
I always kind of describe it as like you're stuck in a sauna and you can't get the fucking door open.
Yeah, so like yeah, I came from a good family and I had a good life to now, you know, I'm living on the floor of this homeless shelter, right? Like I said, no one's answering any phone calls. I got no one. Everything I own is in a backpack, you know, that doubles up as my pillow. That's what I use as a pillow at nighttime on that concrete floor. And like I said, that guy was ODing and people were robbing him. And then, you know, I was scared. You know, I was truly scared because I could see myself in him. I could see that being me. And I didn't want that to be me. Finally, this time I was like, okay, I need help. So I reached out. I went to, they have a caseworker there. They set me up with this place called AIDS Project Worcester, who got me a Uber out to Westboro Spectrum, which is a detox. And that was the last place I went to. But this time, it wasn't what I used to always do. Because I used to believe, I really did truly believe, like if I physically felt okay, you know, they talk about going through a detox and, you know, then you stop, they help you not be sick anymore, right? I thought if I wasn't sick anymore, I could figure this out. You know, I just had to stop being sick. Like I had to get over that hump of like, okay, like I'm not like throwing up wanting to die to like, you know, give me so I can just like walk and be normal. And then like I could figure this out. Like I could be a normal person, but I couldn't. You know, I had that mental obsession already like embedded in me. So this time, like I went to that detox instead of like, you know, once I stopped physically feeling well, saying, hey, see you later. Like I'm good. I got this. I went to this CSS, which is it's like a clinical stabilization support where they help you get back on like some sort of meds or things like that, and they help you find further treatment beyond that, or whatever that looks like for you. That could be like MATs, which is medically assisted treatment, or it could be a halfway house, or it could be setting you up with an IOP, which is the intensive outpatient program. But this time, like obviously, I just came from being homeless, so I'm not. My options are very limited, right? I'll take the halfway house. You're telling me that someone's going to give me a bed, 3 square meals, and help me be a better person. I'm like, that sounds like a godsend, you know? What else do I have to look forward to except that concrete floor again? So, yeah, I go to this program, scared, you know, as much as I say, like, I was excited, I was scared. I was really scared because I'm like, if this doesn't work out for me, I know what's looking back. I know what I got to look forward to, that concrete floor again. Like, shit. Yeah. Like, you know, and I was petrified because I knew I tried getting clean and sober before, and it didn't work. I mean, my way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I 100% wanted to stop using it, and I couldn't. So I didn't even know if this was capable. Like, if this was even a thing. Like, I'm like, this is just another money grab. They're taking money from insurance. Like, you know, because I didn't have hope. I didn't believe until I started seeing these people talk about their story and them telling me how many days they had together. And they started working. This house is a working 12-step program. It's called Pathways in Gardner. Place saved my life. It taught this adult child how to be an accountable adult. You know, and what that started with every day was like, hey, make your bed, go to these meetings. Then we started working through the 12 steps, which I'm not going to get totally crazy into, but it's more about like, okay, I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I know that with my own decision making, I can't better my life. I need something outside of myself to help me. What that looks like to you could be God. They call it a higher power. You know, for me, you know, I am religious. You know, my higher power is God. And I feel like He's put so many people in my life to help me in good and bad ways. And I am grateful for that. I am grateful for my whole journey, no matter what, because I feel like where I am today, I don't know if I could have even made it to where I am today if I wasn't an alcoholic and an addict.
Yeah.
It's weird when you start to realize and someone instills some sort of hope and belief in you, what you can do. Like when I started stringing these days together at this house and they helped me get a job, like I didn't even think I was employable again. Like if you look at my past record, like I had larcenies from every place that I worked. Most places, like if they gave you a drug test, I'm like, there's no point in even me working here because I can't pass a drug test.
Yeah.
So I was grateful they helped me get a job. And I stayed at that job for 3.5 years at Mackey's. I made windows, and it was the most gratifying work ever. It made me feel like I was a productive human being. Like, because my whole life, I don't think I've ever was held accountable for anything or responsible for anything. I think I just, did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. But this time, like, it felt good to be told to do something and be able to do it. As small as that sounds to like some people, it's huge to me because I didn't think I could do anything. Like really, I was that beat, that broken. I didn't have a bank account. When I made it to that Pathway House, I didn't have $1 to my name. Yeah, so I graduated that program, right? I got into this sober house and I kept taking the suggestions. Follow. If you want what they have, do what they do. That's kind of what they say in the program, right? So I started and continued to do this routine that I did right from Pathway House, because why not? It's working. When I graduated that house, I had 9 months. I was like, okay, like shoot, like I don't even remember ever having 9 months clean and sober. I continued that routine. I woke up every morning. I made my bed. I went to work. I went to a meeting. I went home. Rinse, repeat. And I just kept doing that until it became ingrained. And then I realized that while doing that, like I can do other things. Like good things started to happen in my life. People started seeing me, see strength in me that I couldn't even see myself. They were talking about me being a counselor. I was like, ooh, a counselor. I'm like, shoot, like it's hard enough just to be me. You want me to tell other people what to do? Shoot. Like, I still had that limited belief, right, in myself. Like, I didn't think I really still offered much. Like, okay, like, I'm getting by. Like, this is working for me. But inside, I didn't know if I had anything to offer anyone else. But then I started sharing my story. And I would have people come up to me after the meetings telling me, like, Jay, like, I felt like I had no hope. I felt like, I lost my family too. I lost everyone. And I didn't think there was anything left for me in this life. But I see what you're doing. And you're giving me hope that, like, there is life after, losing everything. There is life after, completely feeling like a failure. Then I met this wonderful group called the Phoenix. This was the game changer, right? We want to talk about back in the game, right? These people saw what in me that I could not see myself. They saw my capabilities and they believed that I had the strength to do the things that I didn't think I ever could. We talk about Josh, us running on a mountain. I met him on the, doing a trail running on a mountain. I was like, oh, geez. And I remember that whole night we had these headlamps on and I'm telling them, I don't know if I can do this. You guys are crazy. How far are we going? And, full of like, that fear, that insecurity, that doubt, and these people like, Jay, you can do it. And I'm connecting with these people through my own pain, just like I do when I share my story. And I was like, wow, there's like something to this. Like, this is pretty cool. Having people by my side when I'm struggling, giving me the motivation to continue going. Just like they do, like in the halls, they call it like AA, NA, like all those different programs. Like these people are holding me up when I don't think I can hold myself up. So that night we completed like 6.5 miles. And I don't think I ever ran that far ever. And I was like, wow, that was pretty incredible. I'm like, if I can do that, what else can I do? And these people started offering all these different races. I'm like, and I dove right into it. I used that motivation and that what I was accomplishing with running to my life in general. Like if I can, if I thought I couldn't even run a mile and now here I am running, a marathon. I've run an ultra, or multiple ultras. What else can I do in my life that I had this limited belief about? If I could do all these things that I thought I could never do before when it came to like running and other things like that, what happens if I apply this to my life now? And I kind of dove into my life that same way, putting in that effort, and no matter what comes out of it, I know that like I'm trying today. And yeah, it's been incredible. I've met so many incredible people. I've spoken in front of, governors, mayors, told my story. I've helped, I don't even know how many people. It doesn't even matter. If I can help one person, then that gives me purpose, right? And being able to do that for people today, just like it was done for me, is a blessing, and I get paid for it. That's the beautiful part about it. Like, shoot, like I get to share my shitty past life with someone, and I'm getting paid for it. I'm like, dude, you want to hear about all this garbage that I used to do? It's just such a cool thing how like we can grow from our struggles.
Yeah.
And we can see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
Perfect segue, Jason, for that. One of my favorite memories of doing a race with you was the night that you were doing an overnight leg of the Ragnar reached the beach. I think it was a 9 or 10 mile stretch that you had to do, and we were kind of trying to check up on you along the way, but we couldn't find you. So we just said, screw it, we'll go to the next checkpoint, we'll see him there. And you came running in, pitch black, headlamp dead, hydration pack wasn't working, but you still did it. And you did it strong. Like, you didn't need any of those aids. And like you talk about that first night when we're fiddling with our headlamps and how much water did we bring and trying to, just make it up to this turn and we'll see how far we go. The journey took you to not needing any of those things and just killing it anyways. So like, one of the things you said is that it's amazing how many people your higher power puts in your life, right? So at what point did you figure out that now you're that person that's being put in other people's lives?
I don't know. When I started realizing that people looked to me, people never looked to me for anything. If anything, if I was being looked at, the cops were looking for me. But, when I have people in confidence come up to me and talk to me about some like really serious stuff and trust in me and believe that what they're telling me, I'm not going to judge them on, I'm not going to make them feel less than, because they've heard my story, who am I to judge? Like, I'm literally, yeah.
It's awesome.
I think for me is like, I'm never no different and I never will think I'm ever better than. Like, I am just a person in recovery trying to live the best life that I can, every day. And some days that could be like, I can only give 50%, but that's okay today, right? I think being able to do for others what was done for me, like I got this incredible life right now, I got an opportunity to be back in my son's life after 6.5 years. Right? The last time I seen my son was when he was 1.5 years old. Right now he's 8 going on 9. I didn't know if I'd ever see him again. But I had people in my corner being like, did you call the court? Jackie, our good friend, she'd be every day, did you call the court? I'd be like, yes. Well, do you need to go down there? I'll go down there with you. Like, I have these people knowing what's important to me, willing to push me when some days I just don't feel like I have the energy to push myself. And I am so grateful for those people in my life. So who am I not to do that for someone else? Like, a kid in the program, he was like, oh, I need a car to get my license. Like, I'm not even, I know him from one of the programs. He comes down to my center and I'm like, dude, I'll let you use my car because someone did that for me. I know to some people that sounds crazy. They're like, let them use your car. I'm like, well, you know what? Someone else did that for me. And guess what? I have my license now. Like, you wouldn't be surprised how much that gives someone some hope when like you're willing to go above and beyond when they probably don't think that anyone cares.
Yeah.
Even in recovery, because that's one of the hardest things. Like, we have a lot of guys in early recovery who come down to this center and they were just like me. they didn't know if they could stay clean and sober. And I just told them, just keep showing up. Even on the hard days, just keep showing up. There was days that I wanted to be like fold and give up, but I knew what would happen if I did fold and give up. You know, like I keep saying, I know what happens. I got that concrete floor back there, and if not that, maybe death.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's my favorite thing about the recovery community is that everybody's there for each other. And like you mentioned, the Phoenix, a group of people who just want you to do good.
Yeah.
And be able to experience that with you. It's not like, oh, I want to help this guy. It's no, I want us all as a community to do better and be healthy.
Yeah.
I've kind of noticed that, like, with I didn't go to like a rehab or whatever. I stopped drinking after I went to a mental health facility, but I noticed that, like, before I went there, I would kind of view addicts or alcoholics like not that I didn't view them in a positive. I think I just viewed it differently. Where now, like, being around that and everything that I went through, like, I have so much more empathy for that kind of thing where, like, I want to help. And I noticed that a lot of the people that work in those kinds of facilities are former, like, patients or former, like, they were in there. And I feel like it's people who, it always seems to be the ones who struggle the most help the most, and the ones that could help the most don't. It's like you almost need to struggle to have, which isn't true, but just from like what I've seen, for the most part, I feel like it's always the ones that don't have that much who give the most. I don't know if you guys have.
No,
Yeah.
I just gonna jump in. It just what's amazing to me, and not that I have family members. That's been my experience, and then close friends. But I always feel this inside guilt or shame. I was a probation officer. That's how I met Josh. We collaborated on a lot of things, and I remember first becoming a probation officer and dealing with the first case where it was an issue involving substance abuse. And I'm just going to openly admit it. I had no empathy. It was, you got a problem, you need to fix it. It's not my problem. Fix it, or I'm going to take you in front of the judge, and where you're just going to have to go somewhere. And it wasn't until I started to listen, and I was sitting there, and much like yourself, I had an individual whose parents were very accomplished. He had gone to a prep school. He was a scholarship basketball student, and he just happened upon you. And I was like, wait a minute, we have like the same background. What was different for him that he is on the other side of the desk from me? And it just, like, I drove home from work that day, just my head all scrambled up, because I'm like, wait a minute, this is different. But you talk about, I just have to just say this. And I don't mean don't mean to trivialize, but think of the concept of, like, my cupboards are bare. I need to go grocery shopping. So I'm going to go into the store. I'm going to take what I need, and I'm going to leave. I just very rarely have witnessed that in my 20 years in criminal justice, probation, the prison system, working in that endeavor. I always feel like the first inclination for my clients is always, all right, I got myself up and going. And rather than leaving and having acquired everything they need to succeed, they turn around and they say, what can I do to pull this next person up? And they remain engaged. And I just think that's such a wild concept, because I think we're in this society that we get what we need to make ourselves successful, or whatever that is. And maybe not not we don't intend to be like that, but I've never seen a community so willing to lift everybody up. You're absolutely right, Jason. You want to use my car? What? Are you crazy? Like, no. I'm not even gonna let you drink one of my sodas. Like, like, whatever. It's just, you know what I mean? But that concept, but I don't want to. I appreciate you saying you're all over the place, but I love how the sharing, and knowing what I know about you so far. What do you think the Jason, back when he was the captain of the basketball team, getting involved in all that, would have said if he bumped into the Jason, like, now? Like, I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense, but, like, I don't know, that progression, because we talked about, see, you like that? I asked you a question. I don't even give you an opportunity to answer it. We talked about this before, the three of us. We had talked about this. Like, it's funny, people think that I'm going to be successful and I need to get from here to there and it's a direct line. And life just isn't that. And if you told me back in the day that I'd be a probation officer now working with people in job development and all that, I'd have laughed at you because I wanted to be a teacher. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you talk about getting to where you are and being, I don't want to misuse your words or whatever, but paraphrase what you say, like you're happy where you are and your journey got you to where you are. I don't know. I don't see any remorse. Like there's no woe is me. There's no like, oh, poor me. Like in your voice, you are happy where you are, and almost as if I don't know, you took that journey on, and there's no excuses. There's no any matter. If anything, you're over. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
It's
so
just weird.
Nah, I get,
No, I
I
know
Because
get
what
what
you
you're
mean.
saying.
20 years in this, and it's there's never anything. It's not cookie cutter. It's not cookie cutter. That's why we got together and talked about this podcast, because it's not all the same. A judge told me that once. He said, Todd, they're not. Each individual is just that, an individual. And I don't know. I'm just so. I'm still thinking back to the being on the floor and you're watching someone getting robbed. I mean,
Not
it's
only
just
is
no, please, that you needed to, because
I
I
was
go
gonna
on.
say, like, yeah, they're not all the same and they're not cookie cutter, but ever since I checked into that mental health facility and like I knew I needed to stop drinking because I was using it to cope. Like I was thinking, like, do I have a drinking problem, or do I just not know how to cope with what I'm dealing with, or do I not know what I'm dealing with? And like a bird's eye view and stopping drinking, like now can see it, but I don't think I would have really learned that unless I went through it, like you were saying, Jason. But one of the how it's not cookie cutter and all the same, like, but I also feel like a lot of it is the same because everything you were saying, Jason, like you can't see it, but you're blowing my mind because everything you're saying about the way you thought when you were younger and playing basketball, and then the way alcohol made, which I'm sure is the case with a lot of people, but like I was the quiet kid in school, played varsity hockey. I wasn't someone who was who I turned into. It, it was because it was making me, I was uncomfortable and it was making me who I wanted to be. Like why I do stand up or radio and podcast, like everything that I do and have done, I'm like, that's not me. I would take an F on a project because I didn't want to get up in front of the class and present it. But now I'll get up on stage and like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I do it every day. But like now that I'm not, I feel like I would drink or whatever, like to be the comedian or the personality that I wanted to be, and it was who I thought it was making me. And then watching it back, I'm like, oh, that's not who it was. But it made me feel like I was that person. But now that I'm not drinking and not doing anything, I feel like now I'm the person that I was trying to drink to be. And now that I'm not, and on the other side of it, I don't know, but I feel like there's a lot of similarities and stuff with like what you're saying. I think that's what's so good about this podcast and talking to people is because you do feel alone. Like even now, I know I'm not the only one that's dealing with these issues, but listening to you talk, I'm like, holy shit. It's like you're me living a different life. Like it's like the same, but completely different.
Yeah.
To go back to Todd's question, look back to when I was in high school to where I am now. I don't know what I would have thought. Like, I guess I would say to myself, I'm proud you made it out of it, because most people don't. Because when I was younger, my mother died from alcoholism, so I saw that, and I saw that people don't make it out, and I was that person who would tell myself, you're not going to let that happen to you. And then I let it happen to me. But yeah, like to see what my mother went through, my father was, an alcoholic also. to see all that, the fighting that they went through and the struggles that they had with just trying to figure their own lives out. Like today, I know how to handle, you remember how before I was talking about like I didn't even know how to live life? Like today I know how to handle life. Like shit, like when bad things happen to me, like I'm not upset. I'm like, okay, like what can I do to make this better instead of being like I used to play that victim card. Like, oh, figures that happens to me. Like, today it's like, no, like shit, like Jay, you can work through this. And I'm not afraid to ask for help today. Like I'll ask my close friends, be like, hey, I don't know what to do about this. What do you think? I always was that person who thought that was a weak. That as a man, I'm supposed to figure this out by myself. And if I ask for help, that makes me look less than. I don't know where I ended up getting that narrative in my own head and how that belief came to be a part of my life, but it was a big part of my life. I think I was always so worried about what other people thought about me. And I don't even know why. I put so much power, especially when I was a younger kid, into what other people thought about me instead of just being me. I spent most of my life being this person that I thought you wanted me to be. And I don't think I ever even knew who Jay was until now. There's some part of me that's when I'm out there running, doing that trail running, that I find some sort of peace. There was not one point in my life where I could sit with my own thoughts, and here I am, I can go out there and run miles and suffer and know that I can do this. That never was a thing for me. I avoided everything that was hard. Yeah. Everything. You give me the option to pick the easier, softer way, dude. Yes. I was that person to be like, oh, if they could make a pill that made me faster, stronger, likable, like I want it. Today it's like, no, like I'm gonna. If there's something that I want in life or something I want to improve in life, I'm gonna learn how to do it. There is no easier, softer way. That's just not life. That's not what makes life fulfilling. I'm starting to learn that what makes life fulfilling for me is when I work hard at something and I get to, reap from that hard work. Not just given stuff. I need to work hard for it because I appreciate it more when I actually did something for it. When I'm out there, like right now, I ran 11 miles this morning before I worked my 8-hour shift. And I do that because it brings me not only peace, but like I'm training for all these races that I thought, if you would have asked me, okay, how about this? If you would have asked me when I was in high school and doing all those sports, I hated running then. Dude, I remember the coach saying, you gotta run suicides, let's go. Like, dude, suicides today, come on, I got those suicides. I feel like I'm in better shape now than when I was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I can't say.
And that's all from me as an addict, seeing where I came from and how I got through that pain and all that dark place to what I'm doing today and all these goals that I'm checking off and like I didn't even think I could do. And I just keep checking them off. I'm like, shoot, like, dude, the sky's the limit. And I never thought there was no sky. I thought for Jay, it was like, I thought I was going to be like I was going to die in that shelter. And there was part of me that was kind of wishing I did.
Well, so I'm gonna go a different angle, and it doesn't mean we can't come back or because we're all over the place. You just said something that stuck out. So you said sky's the limit. What's next? What's the next big thing for Jason? What's the next goal? Is there one? Does it matter? What's on the horizon?
It's funny you asked, does it matter?
And I mean that. Hold on a second. So let me give a little bit. No. I mean that. Yeah, like not that everybody has to have like, you know what I mean, like whatever. I'm just saying like, does it matter to you that you set a new whatever it is, or because I'm hearing a lot of you're happy where you are, you're enjoying life. You just said you're in best shape. You're in better shape now than you were when you had things like that. So what's 5 years from now? What's 10 years from now? I don't know.
No. I was just, spitting back what you said to me, like, does it matter? If you would ask me, like, if I was to say that this was the way my life is going to be right now for the rest of my life, I would be fine with it. but I know that it doesn't have to be that way. That I can be more if I choose to. If I choose to. So right now I'm going to school. Like, I don't even know what that looks like. You're talking to a guy that used to rob and steal and manipulate and hurt people for, good portion of his at least 20 years of his life, to say that he can do anything. Like, I don't even know what anything is sometimes. All I know is, there's a I don't know who said this line, but they say you become the company you keep.
Yeah.
So I just keep myself around the people that I see that are doing well. And for somehow, some way, things pop up. They motivate me to do what they're doing. The possibilities, there's, if I'm just sitting home doing nothing, there's not going to be possibilities. But if I'm putting myself out there, making myself vulnerable and making myself available, these things somehow, as long as I'm doing well, like if I'm doing the next right thing, these opportunities somehow find their way to me. And I have no clue how, but it's like, I just trust that as long as I don't pick up a drink or a drug and I don't, and I make the right choices today, good things happen. And for some, if you were to tell me that before, like, good things will happen as long as you don't do, I'd be like, shut up. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But like, yeah, I was that person that was in doubt and disbelief, and I thought everyone was lying and no one was really an addict. No one was like me until they were, but yeah, I keep signing up for these outrageous races. I don't know. I guess I'm going to run until the wheels fall off. Who knows what that will take me? Like, Josh, he does a lot of skiing. Some days I'd like to get into skiing. I don't got that skiing money yet, but who would have thought that running was so expensive? I thought like running costs nothing. Jeez, Yeah, I got a bank account and I have some money in it, so I think I'm doing pretty well. Do you know what one thing I'd like to say though is I learned to be okay with what I do have today. I was always that person that was like, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when this happens. I'll be happy if I get this. Or, today I like, geez, I got a roof over my head. I got a full-time job. I'm talking on a podcast. I don't know. Like, I'm blessed. I really am. I'm really blessed that, like, I have, like Josh in my life that's like, I want you to be on this podcast. Like, you have a good story. Like, that's unbelievable. I wouldn't have thought that, that would be a thing for me. It definitely is a blessing. I just think, like, if I just continue doing what I do right now every day, I trust that, God has a path for me. Right now it's doing this. Maybe I'll be a counselor someday. Maybe, like I said, I'm going to school right now to be a substance abuse counselor. Maybe I'll do that. The reason why I'm going to school is just because I can. Not that I have a path, I just can. Like, shoot, like I can, they say knowledge is power, and it is. If I can be a better assistant director to the members who come into this into our recovery center, if I can offer them the better day by day by improving myself, then I'm going to do that. If there's other things that come along with that, whether it's job openings or whatever, that's great. I'm just blessed that I have the opportunity to do this.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. We had a guest on the podcast not too long ago, Sean Hayden, CEO of Gamma. So CEO of Gamma operates Alyssa's place in Gardner. And when we asked him that question, I was prepared for, the CEO answer. And he gave us the most humble answer that I didn't see coming. Kind of blew me away. So, and I hear that same, those same themes with you. It's not the big, giant goals and this and that I want to chase. It's how much more impact I can have doing what I'm doing. And I think that is the most admirable thing that someone could say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like I said, like, when people ask me to come speak, I don't say no. That's what I was taught. Because if someone said no to the message that I got from other people, remember how I was telling you, like, other people instilled hope in me by them telling their story and how they got out of that dark place and they made it to where they are today. If they were to say no to that, then I wouldn't have heard that story, We talk about like that stigma. You see like that homeless guy on the streets. I was that homeless guy. You drive by him, he's got a sign. I was that guy. If you were to tell that guy right now that you could be the assistant director of a peer recovery center, he would think you're full of shit. But if you give him hope and help him and see and show him that there's another way, who knows? Not everyone will get it, but giving them the opportunity to be a better person, why not give them a shot?
That's awesome. Well
Great
said,
stuff,
Jason.
Jason.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, it's in one thing, you know, it's inspiring, and I love how you've made it about everybody else, and I don't see any, you know, here I am saying, you know, what do you see for yourself on the horizon? You just, again, turn it around to having opportunities to continue to help. And maybe I was thinking like, what do you want to take a trip someday, or do you want to like whatever, you know, like, but I love that that selflessness, you know, that, you know, being satisfied with where you are and knowing that there's more for you out there, more ways for you out there to help, because you're not just helping, in my opinion, you're not just helping people who are coming through the same journey as you. You're helping people like myself who might not be on that type of journey, but continue to need to know that there are people out there helping other people. You know what I mean? Um, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You know, it's great stuff. And I, like, again, I'm not going to patronize it. You're doing a good job, Jason. Way to go. Like, I just, you know, it's just, it's inspiring, because I'm not sure everybody has that in them, to that fight, that will to continue on. You know what I mean? And it's great stuff.
Yeah. Certainly
Yeah,
a story
I
that
think
needs to
about
be
like
told.
you and Josh being probation officers and how I used to be so scared of probation officers.
Me too.
You know what I mean? And you know what? And I would be like, you know, probation is it sets you up for failure. And I used to tell myself that, but it's not. Like when I was on probation when I first came out here, and my probation officer, as long as I was trying and doing the best that I could, was my best cheerleader.
Yeah.
But when I was in active addiction and they threw me on probation, I was scared because I couldn't see myself not drinking or drugging. And how do you tell a probation officer that without thinking you're going to get thrown in jail?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was always in constant fear, and I was afraid to tell my probation officer the truth, thinking that he's just going to throw me in jail. You know, I didn't know how to be honest with people because I was always, like I said, I was always in constant fear, and I just figured that, you know what my past has taught me, that is when I fail a drug test or when I'm struggling, I get thrown in jail. You know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was the way it was. You know, I'd have people tell me, you know, you need to stop, you need to stop. And here I am like, dude, like, I can't tell my probation officer, like, I want to stop, but I can't. Because he's just going to throw me, because I thought he's just going to throw me in jail.
Yeah.
So, like, I had to live with these feelings. And
Well, it's a very intimidating setting too. A probation, well, for me anyway. Like the, I don't know if you've ever been to the Worcester one, but that was
that's where I'm from.
Oh hell yeah,
Yeah. I'm from, well, like, see, I grew up in Millbury, right next to Worcester.
okay,
But I used to run the streets of Worcester. Yeah, that's where the PIP shelter is.
yeah, and yeah. So I was luckily when I was on. I mean I'm very lucky. Like I don't like I say it's my story sounds a lot harder than it really was. Like there's like I don't want it to seem like we're on the same level when I'm saying like it sounds similar like on the like the way you were thinking and stuff. I was never on a concrete floor or I've never seen anyone OD. That's like intense stuff, but like luckily, my probation officer, I was on WAF at the time, and my probation officer was a huge WAF fan, so she knew who I was already. So I was like, thank God. But I was like, if I didn't have that, it would have been a lot more intimidating.
I think that would have really helped with work verification, huh, Judge? You know?
Yeah.
Hey, is Dolan at work today? Hold on, let me turn the radio on. Yep, there he is. All right, good.
Don't even have to leave the office.
But it's funny you guys say that, because like I admitted I wasn't a good probation officer when I first started, because there was that sense that I needed to be a fixer, and that I think anybody, whether you're a probation officer or not, or everybody's got the answers. Everybody knows. It's like being a parent. We all know what's going to happen when that, you tell the kid, hey, it's slippery out, watch your step. Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, you know what's going to happen, but sometimes you got to let them, you can't, you have to talk with him
Yeah.
about it and say, listen, blah, blah, blah. And again, going back to we're men, we're not supposed to be like, I think my father's idea of having a heart to heart conversation was, I was on the ground looking up. That was it. You know what I mean? So, but I think I didn't become better at my job until I listened. You know what I mean? Until I listened, and again, they didn't know this at the time, but my probation is I was learning so much. So that's why I was asking questions, because I had no idea where they were coming from, and it helped me with future clients, and then meeting people like Josh, because just like in any trade, any occupation, there's always going to be people that aren't good at what they do, let's just say that. But then meeting people like Josh along the way and seeing like, oh, here's a guy, he's working in the institution and he's got the same outlook as me, and we can work together and we can be a team for these people and give them a support system. It's but again, I just keep going back to when I don't know, it just but it yeah, I don't know. It's not the same. It's not the same for everybody, and that's what I appreciate about it, and the fact that you're just so willing to churn it around and use it for other people. The Phoenix, I mean, I always feel I have to tell this story, and Josh is like, Boucher's just getting like, sick of hearing this, but it's the same. It's I love telling the story, but we were at a training in Colorado, and he brought me out, and he's like, hey, I think we were gonna go to dinner or something. I'm like, let's go do nothing. We got some time. And he's like, I want to go visit this program. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, we're like in Colorado. We can go like sightseeing this and that. And he wants to continue working at 7 o'clock at night. Like, come on, man, stop being a geek. And we roll into this gym and I'm like, whoa. And they like circle, they just finished the workout. They circle up, they start talking. And I'm like, what is this? And Josh knows where I'm going. And there was the words written on the wall, and it said, I I always get it wrong though, John. Was I fight for
It's why I fight.
why I fight dot dot
Yeah.
dot in big letters, and then people who were writing their own respond what it meant to them, and there was somebody who wrote, so it said why I fight, and then somebody had written to have the ability or to have the opportunity to come to this gym, and I was like, okay, I gotta go. I'm going outside, Josh, and he's like, you're right. I'm like, I need to go outside, and I walked
Get
out, and it was just
a
like
little
I got
dusty
hit.
in here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I got hit by a thunderbolt, and maybe that's when it happened for me, that I realized that we're all on this journey going on different roads, but we're all on the same journey, just taking the different, I don't know. I want to be a professor of like great cliches and like wisdom and all that, but it's just that it never ceases to amaze me, people's journeys and how they make it through and then immediately turn it around to help somebody. And I I
Well,
don't know.
Todd, like it or not, we're part of this community, right? So we're
Yeah.
members of the same community, and we can choose to either be good community members and be productive and helpful with each other, or we could choose not to. And I'm grateful that we've been able to learn from people like Jason, to show us what all of the members in our community. I remember the trainings. Jason, Todd, and I would do trainings. I mean, 15, 16 years ago, probation and correctional staff in the room, and Todd would say, what are some of the barriers that your clients face? People would say, oh, they don't have enough money to get on to the bus. Oh, they don't have a job. They don't have a good home situation. And then Todd would turn around and say, well, you might be their biggest barrier as their probation officer. Like, that might be you. So kind of check yourself at the door and figure out, are you having the worst impact or the best impact on that person's life? So it comes full circle when you get to actually communicate in a different way. It's not like this hierarchy of, this person has to be this way because of their title or whatever. Like I said, I think I get more out of the recovery community than I think I'll ever give.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
And I
Sorry,
think
didn't mean to
that's
jump on your words there, but I just
no,
had
that's
to say
right.
that.
And I think that's what's going to drive these stories, right? For every person, I think our role here, Todd, is to help broadcast these messages, right? Because
Hmm.
if even one more person hears Jason's story, their life trajectory could change. in a positive way. And I think that's why, I'm I'm very grateful that our paths have crossed, Jason, so we could do things like this.
Me too. I always wonder, like, what my life would be like if the Phoenix didn't show up.
Yeah.
Things like that, right? I mean, I'm sure, like, I would have found something else to enjoy, but
Yeah.
I really found some sort of peace in what, in the events that we do. And remember how we showed up for, like, that other community, that recovery center, Lovers Lane. Like,
Yeah,
she couldn't
Vermont.
believe how we all showed up like that for another recovery center in a different state.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just what we do, Like, I just learned that, like, when you show up for others for somehow, some way, it comes back, in ways that you would never even think,
Talk about positive influence, Todd. That particular race is a 1.7 mile loop, and you basically see how many loops you could do. And two of my boys came with us to run.
Mm.
One of them had the goal of just, kind of cranking out a couple laps and then hitting the skate park for the rest of the day. And it was because of the positive examples that people like Jason and Miles and Jackie and everybody showed them, hey, we could do this. My son was 13 years old at the time, cranked out a marathon.
Mm.
Never trained for it. and so you have the impact. You have the ability to impact people if you want.
Yeah.
It just shows you, like, how our motto is like, we're stronger together.
Yep.
You know, I draw strength, from other people. They're the ones today. Instead of me being resentful or jealous, like, I'm like, well, how did you do it, and how can I do it? That's kind of like what we do in recovery. Like, how did you do it, and how can I do it?
Yeah. Well, let me remind you though, you're drawing strength from them, but they're drawing it from you, brother. You know what I mean? And that's what keeps it all going. Yeah. I don't know. All right.
Well, any final words, Todd?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna make this about me. I'm just gonna say, we started it off. We talked about back in the game. You really took control of this episode, Jason, and it was awesome. And I mean that in a good way. You really made it easy. Just like Josh said, was able to just sit here and listen. But back in the game, give me little. I don't know. You hear that? Josh says, "Hey, come on my podcast. It's called Back in the Game." What does that mean to you?
For me, it's coming from a place of, emptiness and no hope to hope, to having, like they say, like, having a full cup. When I didn't think that'd be possible. You talk about, you use the words back in the game. I feel like I've created a better game for me. I created a life, and that is something that I never thought would be possible. Like I was talking to you before, like that. I feel like my life is better now if I wasn't even to pick up a drink or a jug. I truly believe that. Like, I really do. Like, I have purpose today. I have good people in my life today. I have all these good things because of everyone that helped me. I could be that person who said, like, I did all this really hard work and I got these accolades, but, like, no, like, I drew off people's strength, which made me a stronger person. And I guess, like, that's how I wake up today, right? I don't wake up today wishing I was dead. I wake up today wondering, like, hey, I wonder what today's gonna bring.
It's awesome.
I don't think
Thank you.
I don't think you can add anything to that. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to try.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Jason. Thank you for being
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for the work that you do every
Yeah,
day.
thanks, man.
I think it's very admirable. I've told you this from the past. Super proud of you. Proud to call you a friend.
Sure, appreciate it.
The epitome of being back in the game. I love it.
Great stuff.
Any final words, Josh?
No, it's appreciate you coming on, man, and it definitely helps. It helps me. Like, today has been a really rough day, and like I'm going through custody things with my daughter, and it's crippling, and like thinking of all the mistakes that I made in the past, and just like the whole drive up back home, I was having thoughts I've never had before. It was definitely helpful to hear you talk about that, and it's like we keep saying like hopefully this is to help somebody else, but this definitely selfishly helps me too. So I appreciate you
that.
being here.
The impact that you have, Jason. I love it.
Well, I wish you the best with the whole custody thing. Just understand that just keep doing you and trust that the best outcome will happen instead of trying to like force the way that you want it to happen. It's going to happen the way it's going to happen. You know what I mean? So look at it.
Definitely.
You're blessed to even have
teetering.
a child, right? You know what I mean? We're blessed to even have children. So.
And sorry I had to dip out. That was her that I was talking to, and
We'll allow it, I guess.
Yeah. I got mine too waiting out in the driveway with the basketball trying to hold on to the last bit of 60-degree day and light. So I'm not rushing the game. I'm just saying.
That's great. That's a
you're
beautiful
absolutely
thing.
right. Yeah, really.
They're waiting for you to play basketball?
No.
I was gonna say, don't they know their dad has tattoos? He throws elbows now.
He's gonna sing the anthem before the game can start, so they're waiting on him.
I'm Rodman out there. I worked the paint, boy. Well, listen, this was Josh Bowdridge. Thank you so much for bringing Jason on, and I think on just so many different levels. And I'm not trying to be like cliche and this and that, but I think everything had a big purpose today. This all happened for a reason today. So thank you, Jason. Thank you, Josh and Josh, and I don't know. Take it away,
Right.
Josh.
Back in the game. Till next time.
Let's do it.